In this video, we're going to talk about how to enter data from your Excel that you've downloaded from Qualtrics into an SPSS file. And so when you first open the SPSS program, you're going to be presented with a screen like this. And what you want to click is a new data set. And so we'll go ahead and double click here. It's always a good idea also when we're creating a new data set to have obviously your Excel file open, but also your Qualtrics file as well, because we're going to need to grab some necessary information. And so just a quick tutorial of SPSS. Whenever you open an SPSS file, you're actually opening two files. The first file is the data file, and this is where we're going to enter all of our data. And then the second file that gets open is an output file. And the output file is where we'll find the results of any and all of the tests that we might run. And so it's a good idea to remember that the output file saves separately from the data file. And so you want to make sure if you have some sort of output that you want to keep, that you're saving both of them. Okay, so let's get started on entering data into SPSS. So SPSS looks a lot like Excel. It looks a lot like most data programs. So we have cells, we have rows, we have columns. The big difference between SPSS and Excel is that we need to enter the variable types, names, and qualities into SPSS. And so if we click back here to our Excel file, you'll see that each of our questions is summarized here. So for question 1, and this is like block 1, it tells you what the question was, which is how old are you? And so what we need to do, so we have our data view where we'll enter our data here, and then we have our variable view where we need to create our variables. So our first variable will be age of participants. For the name of the variable, it's important that there are no spaces. So if you want to have a space in there, you do need to use an underscore. So it's going to be numeric, it's going to be width, it's going to be decimals. The label can have spaces if we want them to. And so the label is actually what's going to pop up on our output file if we were going to do any analysis with age. Because this is a continuous level variable, we don't have to enter any values because 2 years is equivalent to 2 years. That'll be different for categorical or nominal variables. So let's mosey over here to the type of measure. So if we click down, it gives us a drop-down menu. And this is a scale, not ordinal, not nominal, but a scale. A scale is all continuous variables. So we've entered all of that information into SPSS now, which is great. Now if we go back to our data view, we will be able, excellent. Go to data view. We should have an age variable here. And so what we want to do now, there's a title, save this, example. And I'm going to save this to my desktop. Note when you are saving any sort of file, you want to make sure you can save it on the desktop, but then you want to make sure to either email it to yourself or to throw it onto a Google Drive or some sort of cloud storage. So now you can see here we have age of participants, and this is where the label will appear. And now all we have to do to enter all of this data is copy and paste it into the Excel, or excuse me, from Excel into SPSS. For all of the copying and pasting we do, it's important that we start in the same row. And that'll be particularly important when we start to talk about the scales. So scroll down, copy and paste, and then we're just going to copy and come over here and paste. And then all of our data is entered for each of the participants. Now let's try creating a variable that's categorical. So a very common categorical variable is gender. And again, we're going to put participants just to make it as specific as possible. We are entering it numerically, which means it's going to be a 1, 2, or 3, depending on if it's a man, woman, or non-binary. Label, again, we're going to put gender of participants. And for values, we do have to put in values. And so we need to tell SPSS that because this is a categorical variable, a 1 is just a label that we're putting in for man. So we need to type 1 into the value, and then the label itself, man, add. 2, woman, add. 3, non-binary, add. Oops, 3. And so you might be asking yourself now, how do I know if a 1 is a man, a 2 is a woman, and a 3 is non-binary? And this is where you want to go back to your Qualtrics, to your survey, because whatever you gave them as the options, if man was first in the options that you gave them, then man would be 1. If woman was first in the options that you gave them, then they would be 1. It all depends on the options that you gave them. And this is going to be the same for every categorical question that you ask. So whether that be ethnic or racial background, anything like that. The order that they appear in Qualtrics is the order that you should be entering them here. So we're going to click OK. So now SPSS knows that when we enter a 1, we're not entering a scale variable or a continuous level variable. We're entering a label for man. And here we want to make sure that we indicate that it's a nominal variable. And so these two will cover every type of variable that we need to enter. But let's try entering one of our the items from our instruments. So the cool thing about Excel and Qualtrics is that if we we would just indicate the column again, starting in the same row, and we would just copy and paste all of our data over in the data view. And now here it all appears. So now we're going to try and enter our instruments.